There. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Facebook page, the Primal Air Facebook page, where we're going to spend a little time today talking about this meme that's been floating around the internet. In myofunctional therapy, what we do is we work with the muscles in the snoring complex so that you can breathe easier, you stop snoring, you can swallow better, you can chew better, you can do a lot of different things. So our goal, though, is to stop these problems from happening in the first place so that you can go your life long without having any of these problems. And the first thing we want to do is start with good nutrition acquisition in infancy. And while breastfeeding is optimal, not everybody can. Dr. Gahari just this past week made a special post about not shaming people who can't breastfeed for whatever reason. And we have to have other solutions, better solutions. I was speaking with my mother a while back and I said, do you remember how you used to make a formula for my brother, Eric? I was 9. And so I was watching what was going on and she had no idea. And this is pretty much what she was making. She was using evaporated milk, okay, came from cows. She was using boiled water. She boiled the nipples. She boiled the bottles. She was super careful about cross-contamination and all of that other stuff. Even when she was breastfeeding, she would wash her nipples before she would feed him. So he was doing a combination, she was doing a combination of breastfeeding and bottle feeding even back then. And so I was always kind of intrigued, especially now that we know so much about high fructose corn syrup, that Caro syrup was part of this recipe. And what she did, she was mixing all of this just the way it's described here. I found a lot of these on Google Images. So I took a couple just to kind of illustrate what's been going on and how we were feeding our babies cow's milk in the 1960s. My brother was born in 1967. Yes, he was born in 1967. And so this was the kind of formula that he was getting too when my mother was taking a break. I don't remember her ever feeding him water, although that's very likely. I don't think she ever gave him tea. And I know that she gave him vitamins. And this little bottom thing here is this orange juice starting at 3 weeks. Oh my God, we would never do that today. So this is part of where we started to go off the rails with healthcare in general. And we have to kind of think backwards on how did we get here today. I was talking with a physician yesterday about adult onset diabetes or type 1 diabetes. Oh my God, I can't ever say it. Adult onset type 1 diabetes. And he and I were going back and forth a little bit. And I said, I think this starts from early epigenetical reasons that we are seeing an uptrend in type 1, which used to be called juvenile diabetes, in adults that are 40 even and older. So we're seeing the pancreas burning out completely and not making any insulin whatsoever. And it could be because we were taxing this organ for such a long time. So to stick with the theme here, and that is facial development, we have to really think about how we are not only feeding the baby and making the baby gain weight, but also supporting the form and function of what we're calling today the craniofacial respiratory complex. So the way we have to do that is understand what happens during breastfeeding. So you can find a lot of breastfeeding videos on YouTube on exactly how the face and the mouth works during this time. We have, I don't think they're MRIs of breastfeeding, but there certainly are, oh, what do you call it? Sonograms of breastfeeding children, where you can see how the tongue is moving, how the tongue is undulating, where the tongue is placed in order to get that whole nipple of the breast into the baby's mouth, and how that is pressing against the palate, the upper jaw. And we know today that that is how the upper jaw grows. So in order to get all the 20 baby teeth in, that maxilla, the upper jaw, and the mandible have to grow wide and forward. And they're doing that because the tongue is resting on the palate, and they are doing that because the breast is in there during feeding. So when you're not using the breast and you're using man-made materials, we have to figure out which one is the best. And you can't do that just by looking at them. This is my favorite one down here in the lower left-hand corner, where the nipple is, the actual nipple part is recessed in there. And then as the baby is suckling, that gets pulled into the area where the milk is deposited, which is at the junction between the hard and soft palate. So you need to test out a lot of these nipples. So if you are in a position to provide gifts for a baby shower, a variety of bottles and nipples would be a good option if you know that the mother is not planning on breastfeeding. When you're using a nipple from a bottle, it's best to see how the lips are. And in this picture here, that baby's lips are very well flanged. They're over the nipple, they're bent up, they're bent underneath. You can't really see where the tongue is. They're saying that the tongue is on the gum ridge, and sometimes it'll stick out even past the lips. But here's a key that not everyone is talking about. I'm going to see if I can move myself down here now, because I don't want to get trapped in that baby's head. What's missing here in this picture is something that happens a lot. What's happening here is that the baby is not completely supported. So in order to support the baby, you need to hold the baby in a breastfeeding position. And this is not necessarily one of them. When you're holding the baby in your arm, in an effort to mimic breastfeeding, you are also helping to develop this cervical curve in the neck. This is something that Dr. Shalom and I talked about last couple weeks ago on this Facebook Live. And what we were pointing out is how this piece of the spine needs to have a curve in order for the cranial nerves to come out and innervate the whole rest of the head and the tongue and blah, 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 everything. The vagus nerve also comes out right in this area and innervates all the way down through the diaphragm, which is what helps, which is the breathing muscle. It's the breathing muscle. When it goes down, it pulls air in, and when it relaxes, it lets air out. So those are things that you need to look for and kind of accommodate when you are nursing. Breastfeeding is optimal. We cannot only focus on the milk, though. There's a lot that's going on during the feeding times. So we need to make sure that the baby is being held so that that cervical curve is being developed, not just that the stomach is full. The craniofacial respiratory complex is all of this right here. So the nose, the sinuses, the lips, the tongue, the mouth, and the muscles here in what we call the oropharynx, which is the back of the mouth and partway down the throat. So this is the appropriate dyad between a mother and a child. It helps to promote this craniofacial respiratory complex, and it also promotes core muscle strength, which is something that we don't talk about very often. Okay, so now we're a little done with that. Thank you for joining me. We at Primal Air are in a business to help you overcome any problems that may have happened during your development and strengthen the muscles in the craniofacial respiratory complex so that you can easily breathe, easily chew, easily eat, easily have enough room for all of your teeth. Thanks for joining me today on this Facebook Live. If you need any more information, you can give us a call at 608-318-2800 or at primalair.com. Have a great rest of your day.